Although Alpha had strengths, there were also opportunities to improve the process. Now, this was the summary of their findings. One, goals are set annually and cascaded down from organizational and business unit goals to employee goals. Two, goals are prohibited from focusing on an employee's core task, i.e., the goals must represent activities that are above and beyond the day-to-day work. Three, goals are required to meet very specific and complex formatting rules. Goals are calibrated across managers to ensure consistency. Four, goals are rated at the end of the year, and rating are multiplied by weights to arrive at a final score. Scores are calibrated across employees to ensure fairness. Final calibrated ratings are then used to determine employee compensation. Now, this is my question. Looking at this performance management system in Alpha Company, what is wrong with the system? And if I may ask, what do you think they can do better? Because they truly know there's a problem. But I would like to ask you, what do you think is wrong with this process, with this performance management process? So I would like to actually hear from us. Please, what do you think is wrong with this process? You can unmute because everybody is muted so as to reduce the intrusion. So what do you think is wrong with this process? Okay, you need to unmute to talk now. So what do you think is wrong with this process?
Good morning. My name is Bukola Bo. I think I'll start with the first paragraph. So clearly, I think the goal setting was done years back, meaning that they've not even reviewed the goal settings, as per where the business is year on year. So it's looking like whatever goal setting has been done, maybe 20 years ago or since the business has started, is still being, utilized year on year. So I think that's even the first issue I have with the process.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I would write on that as well. My name is Banke. So based on the findings, you can tell that KPIs have been set at the beginning of the financial year, but they haven't had mid-year reviews to discuss where they are at the moment, the reality of the KPIs they've been given, because we all know that at the beginning of financial years, in between financial years as well, the organization goals and strategy actually does change based on different things. It might be economic factor, or the company has set to go another way. So you find out that your deliverables are not realistic anymore. And based on this, at the end of the financial year, when you're having your discussions, there are surprises because you are not being told by your line manager that you're not performing things you were meant to do. So there isn't that continuous, there's no media review for it to enable the continuous discussion based on performance.
Thank you very much.
What up? Yeah.
Okay, Sammy, you're raising up your hand. You can actually go ahead, please.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. You can go on, please.
Okay. Okay. So from what I gather from this short case study, so I'm looking at the second bullet point from the summary of findings. So goals are prohibited from focusing on employees' core work tasks. So I think that's where their performance management system is a bit flawed. So KPI should be set based on what employees are employed to do, their responsibilities, so to speak. And if you are going to set other activities that are above and beyond day-to-day work of regular tasks that employees carry out, then maybe create another section for it, and then make it measurable and objective as well. So I think that's where the performance management system for this company is a bit flawed, because the KPIs are not focused on the core responsibilities of employees working in the organization.
Okay, thank you very much. Because of our time and we actually have a lot to do, let's just analyze it together. So I just put this consideration together. Wonderful thoughts and very wonderful thoughts. The first one, goals are actually set annually and they are cascaded down from the organizational goals to the employee goals, organizational, departmental, and cascaded down to employee goals. Now, the top-down approach for goal setting is a wonderful one, really. However, the problem with it is that in most cases, it actually takes longer time. So for example, the company would have to have a goal, then the unit would have a goal that will align with the company. Then the department, oh, please, can we just mute when we are not saying anything? Yeah, let's just try to mute when we're not saying anything. So the department will try to have a goal that is aligned with the unit. Then individual will now start aligning their goals with their line managers. Now, the sincere truth is that sometimes it takes longer time when you use the top-down approach. So the top-down approach is that I cascade it down from the higher level, from the organization down to department, to units, then down to people. So sometimes it might take longer when you actually use that. So the recommendation would be probably don't want to cascade down. What you probably need to do is to train the line managers to help the individuals connect with the organization's goal. So that means the line managers must understand what the companies want to achieve, the strategy of the company enough to be able to help the employees to align with the objectives from the top. So that is the recommendation for the first consideration I will make with that case study. The second one is the fact that goals are prohibited from focusing on employees' core work tasks. So now that is why you find in many companies where there are a lot of goals that has nothing to do with their work. So in this case, they said goals are prohibited from focusing on those core tasks that they do. If they can't focus on their core task, sometimes they will be frustrated because what they do on a daily basis is their core task. So we must ensure that we find a way of linking their core task and helping them set objectives that will align their core task with the organization's goal. The sincere truth is that every task that the employee will have to do must somehow align with the organization's goal. And so also, the basis of their performance assessment must also be around or must ensure that those work objectives or those particular core tasks are also featured in those particular objectives. So to an extent, goal setting guidance must also focus on the important things that they do on a daily basis. Their lead objectives or their lead task, it was focused on those. Number three, goals, they also said goals are required to be met. No, those goals that they set, objectives that they set, they need to actually have a particular way you must write it, format it in the way that the company wants. Now, the sincere truth is this. When the way you are writing the objectives requires more time than even meeting the objectives, it might be counterproductive. So in this case, they would have to format it using Georgia 10, and if it's not Georgia 10, they can't submit it. It might be time consuming. So in this case, they might need to actually optimize technology. So if they optimize technology, all the formattings might actually have been done already from the application. So they will just have to document what they have done, what they intend to do, and the basis of some of those things they intend to do. And the fourth one here is the fact that they are rated only at the end of the year. The sincere truth is that they are rated at the end of the year, and then you multiply some things together and you come by a particular figure, then you now cascade. When you cascade, then you now calibrate. Now, the sincere truth is that there's no clear link between the performance and the reward. Let me give you a real life situation in a company. In the company is a group of companies. Company A, company B, company C, for example. The group company gave targets to company A, company B, company C. Within company A, let's assume that they are meant to make $100 billion. Now, those objectives were cascaded up till when it got to the employee level. This particular employee has done everything he's supposed to do. Based on the scoring that was done initially, the person scored wonderful scores, high performer. All of a sudden, because the organization that that particular person belongs to did not perform well, the group company recalibrated all the scores of all the employees in that particular unit. And as a result of that, the person that performed so well now became an average performer because everybody's score had to be scaled down. Now, the sincere truth is that as a result of that, the person was frustrated. Why? Because there was no clear link between the person's performance and reward. Because for the person that performed so well, did all he's supposed to do, the person got no reward. Just the same way with everybody in his company. Why? Because the company did not meet the objective. However, this person met his objective over and over and over again. So in this case study, that is the same issue. And the recommendation will be improve communication, improve feedback, and also ensure that there's a link between performance and reward. Performance and reward. So that is my thoughts around this performance management of this particular company. So there are some issues and we have already identified them. I just wanted to just say that. Now, so if I may ask, what do you expect to see if we have looked at this particular company, this particular case study, where to an extent they are not so efficient, they have some issues? If I may ask, what do you think you will find, the elements that you will find in an efficient performance management framework? What are those things you would find? If we have identified some that are not so good, the fact that there's no continuous feedback, the fact that there's no link between the objectives, the work that they are doing and the corporate objectives, the fact that there's no relationship between performance and reward. When somebody performs badly, it will still be celebrated. When somebody performs so well, it will still be assumed to be an average person. Yeah, those are some of those issues in that performance. So what do you think will now be elements of an efficient performance management framework? In your own words, what do you think must be there in an efficient performance management framework? Yeah, so the floor is yours. What do you think will now make an efficient performance management framework? I've actually muted everybody. You can actually unmute to talk.
Hello, good day, everyone.
Good day, good day, good day.
My name is Oshozokai. I just joined the meeting like 10 minutes ago. I just got off from the office. That's why I'm joining late. Apologies about that.
No problem.
So for there to be like an efficient performance management framework, I feel that there needs to be a case where they incorporate into the person's performance their qualitative and quantitative skills or what they bring into the business or the company, which should be tied down to their job descriptions and their tasks. So qualitatively and quantitatively, if they can, if the elements can be captured in a qualitative and quantitative means, then they can be like a really efficient performance management framework.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Mom? Okay, hello, my name is Joy. Okay, in a very short word, I think there should be fairness and accuracy, in rating your employee.
Okay, thank you very much. Next. Can go on next.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Olusegun Okwadot. I think for an improvement on the rating, there is need to be very specific. I mean, for the management to be specific on exactly what what are the things they want to measure in every staff. So you don't end up just doing everything in the limbo. I mean, everything up, you put everything disjointed together and not achieving the aim. In order to be objective, state the parameters you want to measure clearly before taking those ratings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. More. So what do you think you must see?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please go ahead. You can go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly well.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Damilola.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I feel a lot of companies these days need to do some sort of staff auditing. A lot of people are not functioning well in some departments they are. So there might not be enough what would I say now? Optimum job description for each person, you know, which will not lead to job satisfaction, because there must be job satisfaction. The employee must know what he or she is supposed to do and align it with the company's goal, which will, you know, at the end of the day, allow the performance management in the company to function well.
Okay, some level of staff audit. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. More. What do you think must be in an efficient performance management system? One more, then we actually continue. One more.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Shiliola. First of all, there should be a defined performance objective. There will be corporate one that will need to be cascaded down to everyone within the organization. And also there's need for KPIs, key performance indicators. So these are part of elements of performance management.
Okay, we're going to actually have a wonderful time today, really, because we need to debunk some things really as we go on and look for better practices that will help us to achieve. So thank you very much for everybody has spoken well, but as we go on, we get to actually get more. Now, in any efficient performance management system, the core framework of an efficient performance management system is 1, accountability, 2, it needs to be very developmental. Now, what we used to call appraisal before, which a lot of people will say is the traditional method of performance management, was more about accountability, i.e., your lag objectives are given to you. When I mean lag objectives, like you are told you are to make $10 billion, that is a lag objective. At the end of the period, they ask you to come and do an appraisal of how you have performed on that objective. So effectively, what you're doing is giving some level of accountability stream, giving some level of being accountable for what you're expected to do. So you document it. I did X, I did Y. So the normal way, the traditional way of performance management is more drilled towards accountability. But the second part of an efficient performance management system is that it needs to be developmental. Lag objectives are destinations. For example, you are to make $10 billion. But what will help you to achieve those or that particular objective is your lead objectives. So your lead objectives or your lead activities are actually those things that will help you to achieve your lag. So in my example here, the lag objective is you are to make $10 billion. But the lead objective is that on a daily basis, I will go and visit 20 clients. On a daily basis, I will document my performance and send to my line manager. On a daily basis, I will call 20 customers. on a daily basis, those are the lead activities. Now, those lead activities are also very, very important in ensuring that we fulfill the perspective of developmental approach of an efficient performance management system. Because if I know that in month 1, I'm supposed to meet 10 billion, I have given activities that should help me to meet, say for example, 10 billion divided by 30 days, what I should meet on a daily basis. After doing it the first day, the activities, I need to check the activity again to see if the activities are achieving the reason for the activities. If the activity did not achieve it the first day, then my line manager in relationship with me, in communication with me, would help me to identify what I can do better. And that is why the new perspective around performance management is continuous check-ins, where whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, whether it's monthly, I would have to check in with my line manager to discuss the relationship between my lead activities, my lag objectives, and how I can do better, which is now developmental. So in any kind of performance management that will be efficient, there must be accountability, and it must also be what? Developmental. Now, to bring that in more perspectives and more understandable way, an ineffective performance management or an effective performance management system would ensure that there is some level of goal setting, meaningful and understandable goal setting that will link what I want to do in an effective manner, link what I want to do with what the organization is looking from me. So there must be some level of goal setting. And in most cases, it needs to be generated collaboratively. Now, so basically, we actually implement or help companies with performance management. And there was one that we just completed some weeks ago. We actually helped them with an HRIS application and implemented it. Now, one of the things that they said was that, oh, you know what? The line manager they just set the objective for everybody and just go and meet it. Now, in many cases, when the employees are not involved in setting those objectives might not be their own objectives. And if the employees have not been able to make the organization's objective effectively aligning their own with the organization's objective, they might not be able to meet those organizational objectives. So there must be some level of collaboration between the employees and also the company or the organization, and that is where the line manager comes in. So while setting objectives, the line manager must help the employees to link their own individual objectives with the company's objective. So while setting objective is not just about typing something, it's not just about saying you must make 10 billion, it's about making those objectives the employee's objective. So they need to be involved. So in an effective performance management system, they need to be involved in the goal setting. 2, there must also be a transparent communication and collaboration line. Very transparent one, and it needs to be real-time online. i.e., as they are doing their lead activities and they are learning on their lead activities, they need to be able to communicate with their line managers to look for developmental routes to help them achieve better as they do their activities. So there must be real-time online communication. It shouldn't be that it is only once in a year or every 6 months that employees come to check in with their managers. No, it should be informal and it should be regular. And that is where this comes in, where there must be an healthy relationship between the managers and the employees. And in all sincerity, in many companies, that relationship is not there. It's all about, what are you supposed to do? Have you done it? If you have not done it, you score 0. If you have done it, you score 5. That is appraisal. And the appraisal mechanism of performance management has failed. For example, it failed in Deloitte. In 2015, Deloitte had to change that perspective. Deloitte was always doing, for example, globally, was doing twice in a year performance. But what they discovered was that they were not achieving much, and at the same time, they were spending about 4 million hours globally on performance. Why? Because you would have to go and meet your manager twice in a year, sit down with them and start thinking of what you did in the last 6 months. And as a result of the fact that they've not been able to check in over and over again within the 6 months, there's going to be a lot of arguments, a lot of forth and back. I did this. No, you didn't do that. When did you do it? Oh, I did it in the month of XYZ. And the manager said, no, I wasn't there. I didn't know. And they spent 4 million hours annually on feedback. Why? Because it was not continuous. Why? Because there was no healthy relationship between the managers and the employees. So to an extent, an effective performance management system needs to ensure some level of communication and good working relationship between the managers and the employees. 3, also remember, for everyone that has performed well, they must be rewarded. So there must be a link between employee recognition and rewards and employee performance. So if they perform well, you need to celebrate them. So a performance management system that gives everybody the same thing is going to fail. It has failed everywhere. It failed in IBM, it failed in Deloitte, it failed everywhere where there was no tie of performance to rewards. And the 4th one is the fact that there must always be a regular feedback. So in Deloitte, for example, when they moved away from the twice in a year, they moved to weekly check-ins, meaning that on a weekly basis, the line manager will have a meeting with the employee to say, oh, what have you done this week? What are the lead activities? Has he helped you to achieve your lag objectives? And if it has not, this is what you should do to get things on the right track. So there must be honest and frequent feedback in an efficient performance management system. The 5th one is that, you see, performance management is about developing. It's developmental as far as it's also accountability. So it needs to look at employees' development. It is not just about as the employee performs. It's also about how can the employee perform. So as a line manager, when you're having a discussion with your employee, you're not just looking at, have you done well? You're looking at, what can we do to make you do better? You're looking at steps that you should take to get them to become better. So it is also developmental as much as is about looking at tasks with expectations. And also, remember, there must be continuous employee engagement. There must also be some level of goal congruence between the employee's objective and also the objective of the organization. Now, I want to believe so much that any questions on that before I move on? Any questions on that, really? Any of these things that you think will not help you or is not seen in an effective performance management system? Any questions? Any of these things that you think?
Okay, so I would like to ask really how you said your suggestion was actually weekly discussions. How do you draw the line between micromanaging really? Because to be truthful, that's a lot. Weekly checkups. How do your subordinates, or rather your colleagues, how would you do it in a way that it will come across as you micromanaging them?
Okay.
Yes,
so
because weekly is a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to give an example of what happened in Deloitte, for example. So they moved away from the twice in a year to weekly. Now, remember, weekly does not mean we need to have a face-to-face meeting. So they employed technology. So the whole idea was just check in. Checking in could just be, I'm having a chat with you on WhatsApp. So it's not a physical meeting. And it could also be that you have an application, and that's where technology comes. You have an application where on a weekly basis, we have a diary that is shared at the moment. Actually, I can request for a coaching session, and I have like a diary of what I should do better, suggestions from my line manager. If I have any issues too, I document it on a weekly basis. Just send it on the application, and the line manager can see it, and the line manager can respond. So check-ins might not actually be having a meeting, coming together every week, but it is that, oh, I want to see your progress. How are you doing? Just a call. Oh, he's doing well. I had no problems this week. Everything is actually working on well. So it could just be a call. It could be a chat. It could be using a particular application that will just document some of those. And you can even go in yourself as an employee to go and check the last session you had with your coach, probably 2 weeks ago. Look at what you said must be done and document that thing that should be done the next week. And when you document it, your line manager can see it and can as well suggest what could help you better. So to an extent, it's not micromanagement. You're not coming to the person every time to just say, oh, I did this. This is the problem I had. Come and help me carry it. Coaching is not about helping them to do it. It's just about helping people to discover themselves. So basically, no micromanagement. Have I answered the question now? The person that asked the question.
To an extent, not quite, but I can work around it really.
Yeah. So basically, it's just a check-in. It's not a formal meeting. So the newer way of performance management is more looking at informal, more looking at a relationship. Yeah. And the use of technology more. Any thoughts from any other person before I move on from here, please? Any thoughts? Can I go on? Any questions too? Okay, no questions, I move on. So why should we even do anything performance management? Because I know clients that have not actually done no performance management, no appraisal self in the last 2, 3, 4 years. But they actually have papers for performance appraisal that has not been used. So why must we actually do this performance management? The sincere truth is that that is what supports whether somebody needs to be trained more, whether somebody needs to be developed in a particular way. It supports whether you want to actually promote the person, you want to demote the person, you want to reward the person, you want to reduce the workload on the person, you want to add better, give the person more work. It actually effectively suggests the next course of action that you need to take for an employee. So if you do not do any performance management, that means that the person continues on the same level forever. So performance management will help us to know what do we need to do next in the life cycle, the employee's life cycle. So that performance management helps us to do that. Beyond that, it supports the strategic planning of the company. So a company would actually want to grow. A company will actually want to achieve the objectives. Performance management supports that really. And it also supports whether we should pay more or we should pay less. It supports succession planning because with the performance of Mr. A, Mr. B, and Mr. C that are reporting to Mr. D as a manager, Mr. D is able to know who do I think might succeed me in this particular role and begin to help them to begin to put the person on the right developmental track to ensure the person actually is moved on to greater roles. So it supports succession planning, and it also helps the company to achieve their corporate objectives, their corporate goals from an overall perspective. So performance management is actually very, very important. So not doing it, and I know companies where they've not done it for many years. And one of them came to me and said, you know what, I've been on the same level for about 10, 15 years. They've not moved. I knew the company. I started working with them in 2013. I started consulting for them in 2012, 2013. The same level the person is on is the same level the person is still on in 2022. That is already 10 years ago. The person has not moved. They are increasing the salary of the person though, but the person has not moved a level for 10 years. No movement. The person is only on a particular level. that is because the performance management framework of that company has not worked in the past 10 years effectively. So performance management is all about the process that we would have to follow while managing performance. Includes planning, continuous feedback, employee inputs, performance evaluation, performance review. But I want us to talk about performance planning first, because it's the most important part of performance management. The sincere truth is that a lot of people focus on the evaluation and the review, but the most important part is the performance planning and the continuous engagement. But let's start with the performance planning. What do I tend to do at the point of doing performance planning? What do I need to do? Now, when we are planning performance, it's all about how do I ensure that the corporate level objectives becomes performance, individual performance. We intend to have a corporate level objective at this height. So also individual employee performance must also be at that height. That's what we want to achieve. To connect that, we need to actually have performance objectives that both satisfy corporate level objectives and also satisfy individuals' objectives. So the performance objective is like a meeting point where companies' objectives are satisfied, so also individuals' objectives are satisfied. And when you're coming up with the performance objective, sometimes the review cycle might be so big. For example, the review cycle is 1 year. But looking at the characteristic of the kind of work that each person does, sometimes it might make sense to actually tie performance objectives to work cycle rather than performance cycle. So many companies, what they tend to do is that, oh, our performance cycle is 1 year. However, say for example, I'll be involved in 12 projects within that 1 year. 12 projects. I'll do one in January, February, March till December. Now, for performance objective to be developmental, remember, okay, so you're raising up your hand, so you can actually ask your question. Sammy, you have a question, you have a thought. You can go ahead, please.
No, sorry, sir. It was a mistake, sir. Sorry about that, sir.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so basically, like I said, the performance objective is the meeting point between corporate level objective and individual goals. And when you're setting that, you need to look at the performance cycle of the company and also look at the work cycle. If your work cycle ends faster than the performance cycle, for example, I have a project in January, February, March, April, May, June. Hence, your performance objective should be tied to the one that ends earlier rather than the one that ends later. I want to believe you understand me. So I have a project in January, February, March, April, May, June, and with those are actually my work cycle. For it to be developmental, my performance objective should be tied to each of those work cycles. So that when I finish the one in January and I am assessed, I will be able to have a learning point for developmental, and I'll also be able to show that I have been able to achieve what I need to achieve. In February, I go on to do another task. You will discover that the performance will begin to go up at a very high level, will begin to go up rather than stay at the same level. Because if it is only tied towards the performance cycle, I would only get to be assessed at the end of the year. And the sincere truth is that the manager would have forgotten what I did in January, what I did in February, what I did in March, what I did in April. So if it is tied towards the work cycle, it is more efficient. So when you're doing a performance planning, tie it to the one that ends earlier between the work cycle and the performance cycle, the ones that end earlier. Okay, I want to actually believe that. Any questions on that as I go on? Okay, so somebody is asking me to explain the work cycle. So basically, I just use an example of a project. the performance cycle in our company is every 1 year. It's just an example, or every 6 months. However, the task I do, I will do 5 projects in that 6 months. 5 projects in that 6 months. Each of those 5 projects, I can demonstrate all the competencies and all the objectives that I should be able to demonstrate for my level. I can demonstrate them on each of the objectives or each of the work cycle, which, for example, is the projects. Those particular projects are effectively my work cycle. So as I complete each of them, the work cycle has started and ended. Yeah, so that is an example of a work cycle. Okay, any questions before I move on? Okay. If you have any questions, you can just raise up your hand with the note there, with the sign, so that I can access. So when you're performing or when you're planning performance too, also remember that your performance objectives should focus on 2 major things. Now, I hear the word competence from a lot of people, but we will actually try to see whether we should be using competence or not when it comes to performance cycle or performance management. Now, but let us look at the major things we need to actually focus on when we are looking at a performance objective. We need to focus on 2 major performance expectations. One, the result expectation. The result expectation is what some companies call work objectives. Result expectation. So result expectation is more looking at the lag objective. What is the output? That is the result expectation. Then the second one is the behavioral expectation. So 2 major things that you need to focus on when you are planning performance objective is behavioral expectations and result expectation. Now, I will try to clearly explain them from a practical perspective. Let's talk about the behavioral expectation and let's talk about the result expectation. The behavioral expectation is about how you will deliver the work product. It's about what are you going to, what are the behaviors, what are the values you will exhibit when you are delivering that result? What are the behaviors, what are the methods you would have to use to deliver a particular work objective, to deliver a particular result? That is what the behavioral expectation looks at. For example, let's assume that we actually have a bank and Mr. A cuts corners to meet his objective. Mr. B does not cut corners to meet his objective. Behavioral expectations must be set that ties with the company's expectations. So for example, some company will say, one of our behavioral expectation is integrity. The question will now be, what does integrity mean? What does integrity mean for a marketer? What does integrity mean for an operation staff? What does integrity mean for each person? Because when you are looking at a behavioral expectation, it must be tied towards the job role of each of the different job roles you have. So you can't just say it's integrity. Integrity might be demonstrated by marketing in a different way, and it might be demonstrated by another work role in a different way. So we need to be able to tie them to the job roles. But I will explain that as I go on more. Result expectation is about the goals and the strategy of achieving it. It's about the target. It's about the work objective. That is the result that we actually expected. So those 2 major areas, behavioral expectation and the what? Result expectation. But let us talk about the behavioral expectation, because many of us, many companies might actually need to look at this again. Let's talk about the behavioral expectation. Now, your behavioral expectation, like I said before, focuses on the way people will get their work done. So as a company, you must have, as from a corporate perspective, the company must have a particular way you want people to do their work. The way you want them to get the result that you want them to get. And that particular thing must feature in the performance management framework. So the assumption around behavioral expectation is that there's a particular way you will get a positive, there's a particular way you would have to conduct yourself. You would have to do your work to be able to get positive organizational results. And the whole idea is that if we can put it as a framework and ensure that all the employees follow that particular route, the organization will always have a positive organizational result. That's the assumption. Now, if that is the assumption, then what are the kind of characteristics that we find in a performance dimension, in the behavioral expectation? Now, like I said, the behavioral expectation tied to the performance dimension must ensure that each person must behave in a particular way when they are doing their work well. And when we are defining the performance dimension of the behavioral expectation, we must ensure that they are drilled down to each job role. And they must also be clearly defined, well spelled out, so that each department, each job role will know what is expected from them, rather than a blanket definition for integrity, like we mean what we say what we mean, and that, and that, and that. That is very blanket. It doesn't actually say how a marketer will demonstrate that. So when we are designing behavioral expectations, we need to tie them to their job roles. Now, when we have now determined specific behavioral expectation based on each of the job roles, what we will now do is to group them. For example, I will say, oh, as a marketer, how will you demonstrate integrity? I will say integrity will be demonstrated when you report any gift above $50 given to you by a client. 2, you do not take gifts from a client that is trying to actually do a job with the company. 3, that is for a marketer, for example. But if I now look at it from another job role, let's assume I look at it from a job role like operations, then I will now begin to have another definition for integrity. A definition like, oh, we take a job, within 5 hours, all requests must be delivered, and we must communicate that with the clients. So effectively, the definition might not be the same. So after coming up with definition of each of those integrity for each of the job roles, you can now group them back and put every one of them under the behavioral expectation called integrity. Then you now design a way you will rate that integrity. For example, you will rate them to say, oh, good, bad, fair, and on, a way you will rate those integrity. Now, that is the way you need to actually work around the performance dimension of the behavioral expectation. Now, let's take an example. Let's assume it's teamwork. The performance dimension that we are looking at in behavioral expectation, say, for example, is teamwork. The question I would have to ask myself as somebody designing a performance management framework is that how will each of the job roles demonstrate teamwork? Now, I've given some example here. Things like build alliances to solve solutions. Things like work collaboratively and cooperatively and respectfully with other co-workers. Things like diffuse tension and help manage conflicts. These are different explanations of what teamwork means. And this needs to be done for each of the job roles. And when you are done doing it, you bring everything together and say, oh, this is all under teamwork as a behavioral expectation. And when you're done with that, you can now begin to have a rating system, like something like development required, 1. 2, performing below expectation. 3, performing as expected. 4, performing above expectation, and on and on. So basically, we need to plan the behavioral expectation, which has to do with how they will conduct themselves in achieving the work objectives or achieving the result expectations. Any questions on this before I move on? Any questions as I move on, please? Any questions? Any thoughts, any questions, so that I know I'm not talking to myself? So sometimes all this, oh yeah?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly well.
Hello?
We can all hear you. We can
I
hear you.
want to know why we have the deviation of rating. We have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, not 5.
Okay, so basically you can design your framework anyhow. I can have 1 to 8. I can have 1 to 10. I can have 1 to 20. I can have 1 to 3. So this is just an example. So there's no framework that says I must use 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 or 1 to 20. I've answered your question,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Can I take it a step further?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
How do you build this alliance? How do you make work? How do you make people within an organization to work together? Are we going to constitute a committee to see to that? Is it going to be like head of department coming together? I don't understand how you're going to make sure that this alliance, how will it go to work? Like if you're having a staff strength about 100, more than 100, 200, how are you going to handle this?
Okay, so now the behavioral expectation that we are trying to build here is like we are building the framework of the performance management system. Now, let me paint it. If you are using balance scorecard, for example, there are 4 major expectations that you use. So we are building like a balance scorecard or our framework in the company to measure behavioral expectations. So, and I gave an example of like, let's assume that the performance dimension that we are looking at is teamwork. Now, who is supposed to actually do this? Now, the HR in relations with the line managers is to come up with this. Now, remember, these things here are not the objectives. These are metrics. Behavioral expectations are not objectives. For example, build alliance to solve problems is a metric. Now, when an employee wants to set their objective, they can now say, in this year, in this month, I want to build alliance to solve problem by ensuring that every Monday I have a meeting with my team members. That is building objective from this performance dimension. So this performance dimension of teamwork, the meaning of those performance dimension is what I have put there below. But you see, those meaning is a function of the job role that you are building that performance dimension for. So who is supposed to do this? Okay, no, I think we need to mute. The 250 is coming to the meeting. Okay, so please, do you understand my explanation, ma'am? The person that asked that question.
Okay, thank you. But like you said, if you are using balance scorecard, there's no behavioral expectation on balance scorecard. How can I bring it into balance scorecard? The behavioral expectation.
Okay.
Because it just has only 4 legs: the financial, the process, and others.
Yeah. So balance scorecard is wonderful. However, remember, like I said, I just use the word balance scorecard as an example. So you see, you need to build performance management system that will support what your company wants to achieve. And within the framework, you must ensure you have behavioral expectations and performance dimension. So in a situation where you were using balance scorecard before, and you know very well that behavioral expectations are not there, you can bring in behavioral expectation as the 5th one, the 6th one, the 7th one, the 8th one. It doesn't always have to have 4 legs. Please, do you understand me? So it doesn't always have to have 4 legs like you have in balance scorecard.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so let us take it a step further because of a whole lot of things we still need to do. Now, I know a lot of people always assume that competence is the same thing as KPI metrics. Now, they are far different. Now, I'm going to explain that from a performance dimension. Performance dimension focuses on actions that need to be taken by people when they are doing their work. When I mean by when they are doing their work, for example, I am doing carpentry in ABC International. And the way we do carpentry, one of the things we must do is that we must wear our jackets, then wear our, what do you call it, goggle, so that there won't be dust. Then we must wear face mask. And whenever we are doing our work, we do not take anything from the way we demonstrate integrity in the carpentry workshop is that we do not take what they have not given to us. That is a performance dimension. Performance dimension, let's assume, is under integrity. But the definition of that integrity for that carpenter is that do not take what the company has not given to you. That's a performance dimension. But you see, competence. Competence is a cluster of skills, abilities that you require to do the work of a carpenter. It is not the same thing as the way you will do your work in ABC International. Competence are skills, abilities that describes how the carpenter will do his work. So for example, the competence for a carpenter must have accuracy in hitting the nail on the edge. That is a competence. That is not a performance dimension. So performance dimension is about the work you have to do in ABC International. Competence is about the skills required to do the work of carpenter anywhere. Performance dimension focuses on your job and work in a particular work environment. Competence focuses on the employee traits, the skill traits required for that body of knowledge, like carpenter, like doctor, like accountant. That is what competence focuses on. Performance dimension is used in performance management. Competence is used in areas like learning and development. Because I've seen a lot of performance management framework where competence is used in performance management. The company will not achieve anything. The company I gave you an example of that they have not done performance anything in 10 years, they use competence. Those competence, the cocoa is that, okay, you say the competence is that, oh, as an accountant, you must be able to prepare financial statement. That is a competence. But when you are now looking at it from a performance dimension, you are looking strictly at how the financial statement will be prepared for company ABC, when it will be prepared and when it will be submitted, rather than the skills, which is competence, to prepare the financial statement. So when we are looking at performance dimension, we are looking at it towards performance management framework. When we are looking at competence and competence mapping, we are looking at it towards learning and development, hiring, and on and on. Any questions as I move on? Now, I'm not going to be, if you have any question, please raise up your hand so that I can. I wouldn't actually rush it off. Now, I'm supposed to actually take this case study to say you should design a performance dimension for a particular job responsibility in your company, but because of our time, I think I'll just go on because of every other thing we'd have to do. Now, any questions with remember, there are two major things when we are looking at performance expectation, which is tied to performance planning. I said behavioral expectation, which I've spoken about now. When you are looking at behavioral expectation, it's about how you will do the work you will do, not the work you will do. How, the methods, the mode, the behavior, the traits that you will demonstrate while doing it. Now let us go to result expectation. Result expectation is majorly about what you are supposed to achieve. Results, objectives, results. That is what it is all about. Now, I said this earlier on at a point in time. I said there's what they call a top-down approach of aligning organizational objective with individual objective. A top-down approach is what a lot of companies call cascading, where corporate objectives, strategic direction, corporate goals and metrics are drilled down to units, divisions, departments until it gets to the individual. Now, it is a very wonderful way. Why? Because it flows from the top. But the sincere truth is that this particular approach has been discovered to be time-consuming, extremely time-consuming, because the employee would have to wait until his line manager has done his objective. Line manager would have to wait until another person has done the objective. To an extent, they don't understand how they think. They are not really so much involved as much in determining how they should contribute to achieving the corporate objectives. It's like the corporate objective tells them what to do. It has been discovered that this particular approach is one, time consuming. Two, it has also been discovered that from research that employees feel that they are not part of the decision making, hence they don't take ownership. They assume that they told us to do it, so we just do it and move on. That is what it has been discovered. Yeah. Now, there's also another approach. The second approach is called bottom up. The bottom up approach is about alignment. And when I mean alignment, I mean effectively, the employee does not have to wait, but the line manager is the link. The line manager understands enough as the head of each of the departments what they need to do. For example, a company will probably have five-year plan. Within that 5-year plan, they have communicated, say, for example, the MD, the GMD has communicated with all of the head of departments. I see for this 5 year, they have discussed, this is what each of the departments needs to do in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. To an extent, each of the departments heads, they know what they need to contribute from an overall perspective. They know the direction of the company. So you see, those line managers, when you are using bottom up, are now the ones that will have a meeting with each of the employees to help them, to communicate with them, help them to have an objective that will tie with the direction of the organization. So the line manager does more here to align employee with the corporate objective. So they don't need to wait for the target from division or target from units before they can flow. That is the bottom up. So those are the major two approaches that companies use. So whichever approach is wonderful, but it has been discovered that this particular second approach is one, less time wasting. Two, it has been discovered that employees feel that they are part of making the decision of the objectives that they would have to meet. It has been discovered that it actually works better for many organizations. Now, within your performance management, remember that the framework I showed when I started earlier on, I said after planning, which I just looked at, the next point is effectively ensuring that there will be employee input. Now, within many performance management framework, employees are not involved. Now, let's look at this. Employee involvement is about asking employee to get involved in setting the objectives. It's about asking the employee to provide self-rating on their own performance. It's to say, okay, rate yourself, let's see. It's about asking the employee to prepare statements of their results or how they can even do better. It is all about getting the employee to be involved. And the very sincere truth is that when you get them involved, you would have a result of enhanced ownership. They would accept, because they are involved in setting the objective, it will enhance ownership and acceptance. You will just discover that they will run the vision themselves. You will discover that because they were involved in setting the objective, you don't need to whip them up every day. You don't need to wake them up to go and do their work because they were involved in setting it. Number two, it also reminds the manager about the result employee have delivered and how they have achieved it. Why? Because they were involved. And at every point in time, now, if you have something to say, you can, I don't know, okay, somebody was, yeah. Number three, it also increases this understandability. Because at every point in time, the employee knows what he needs to do. He was involved. They didn't push it down his throat. Hence, it looks more like it's my objective as much as is the company's objective. So employee input is very much encouraged. Now, this particular class I'm actually taking is actually an abridged version. So in the full class, we can actually talk more. But let me go on to continuous feedback because of our time. Now, continuous feedback is another major thing that you will find in an effective performance management system. Now, let me give you a case study of the Adobe. Adobe actually abandoned their annual performance appraisal system in 2012. Why? Why did they abandon it? They were using the same annual appraisal that everybody uses in Nigeria. A lot of people use that. A lot of companies use it. They abandoned it in 2012. Why? One, they were of the opinion that it was ineffective. Why? Because they said it was time wasting. They said it consumed up to 80,000 management hours per year because they are doing annual appraisal. And they said that is equivalent to 40 full-time staff working throughout the year and being paid. Effectively, they were of the opinion that they were paying people to do appraisal. They were also of the opinion that the annual appraisal feedback or annual appraisal that they were doing was just a box ticking exercise. It wasn't developmental. It was just something that people were obligated to do. They said do it, so they do it. That was their discovery. So in 2012, they replaced it. They replaced it with an annual appraisal feedback with one-on-one check-ins supported by frequent feedback. So effectively, they replaced it with like a monthly check-in where employees must check in with their line manager. They will discuss how they can do better. They will discuss what they have achieved and what they should be doing better to achieve more. That was what they changed it to. And the moment they changed it, they discovered that the new performance management framework, the new continuous feedback and regular feedback performance management framework they use, it allowed different parts of the organization to determine the frequency of their check-ins. They were having conversations, continuous conversation based on work cycle rather than appraisal cycle of the company, performance cycle of the company. They also discovered that employees are assessed based on how well they meet their goals, rather than waiting till the end of the year and they just document something. They also ensured that managers were well trained. That was what they used. That was the change they made. They ensured managers were well trained on how they will coach, how they will give feedback, how they will be relational with their employees or their direct reports. They also ensured that employees they looked at their work of their goals to determine whether they have performed or not, and they rewarded them appropriately. And there was continuous conversation, informal conversation, continuous check-ins. And the result of the change was increase in employee engagement. They discovered that before, people were actually leaving Adobe. They discovered that there was 30% cuts in the number of people that laid off, that resigned. They discovered that the moment they changed their performance management framework, 30% of the people that should have left the company did not leave. Normally, 100 people will leave in 1 month. Now, only 70 people were leaving. Effectively, they cut it back, employee turnover by 30% because they implemented continuous feedback in their performance management framework. I'm going to give you another example. The example of Deloitte that I was talking about before. In 2015, Deloitte scrapped their 1-year performance review. They were even doing 360 degrees, and they were doing objective cascading, which is the top-down. The issue they had with their annual performance appraisal was that it was ineffective because it was time wasting. For Deloitte, globally, appraisal consumed 2 million management hours per year. So they changed it, and they introduced another framework in 2015. The new framework they introduced was weekly check-in. Every team leader is supposed to check in with their team members once in a week to discuss SMART goals, how they have been achieving on their recent work, and give them coaching. In addition to that, the check-ins are expected to be initiated by the team members. So team members were allowed to be the one to ensure that they must initiate their weekly check-in. Why? Because the whole idea is that if they are the ones, they will take better ownership because it's their career. These weekly employee check-ins are also supported by a quarterly review. So rather than annual review, they were doing quarterly review. The result of this was also better performance for Deloitte. So you see, the annual wait till 1 year before you do anything has been phased out. I just gave these two case studies, Adobe and Deloitte. And that is why you see better performance from some of these companies. So when we are talking about continuous feedback, what are we talking about? We are talking about removing that annual evaluation and make it more continuous, more regular, more informal and relational discussions between the line managers and the employees. Regular check-ins, forward-looking performance reviews, rather than looking at what you did wrong, is about looking at what you have done, how you have performed, and how you can do it better to achieve the objective. It is forward-looking performance review. And ensuring that performance review or performance management, continuous feedback is a part of the daily work routine. It is not a separate task. It is part of your work. So when you go in and drop in for a meeting with your line manager, it is actually, so the line manager cannot tell you, oh, you are disturbing me, you will not allow me to do my work today. His work is to ensure that it gives you continuous feedback, which will help the company to move further. And remember, it is not go and sit down a check-in could just be a 1 minute chat. A check-in could be a 2 minute chat. A check-in could be a 1 hour chat too. So it is not go and sit down and stop them from doing other work. Apart from that, it is immediate and developmental feedback. It is looking at the employee's viewpoint, asking them, how do you think you can do it? What happened? How can you make it better? Communicate specific things on what they need to start, what they need to stop, what they need to continue. Now, so this is what continuous feedback is all about. And that is what we need to imbibe in our performance management. So an efficient performance management must have performance planning. And under performance planning, I spoke about ensuring that you tie the end of the performance feedback, the number of performance feedbacks you have, tie it to the earliest of the work, the one that ends earliest of the work objective and the performance cycle. Meaning, if I actually have 3 work objectives, 3 projects in a year, my performance feedback or my performance review should be 3 rather than 1, which is annual. Yeah, we need to also tie that. And we also spoke some minutes about continuous feedback and employee input, which are also very important parts of the performance management system. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions before I move on? Any questions? Any questions before I move on to performance reviews and evaluation? Now, like I said, this is an abridged version of this training, and I need to actually move on. So if you have any questions, I just want to take it very fast. Any questions on what we have said? Okay, if no question, I want to be sure that I'm not speaking to myself. It's even possible that I'm just talking to myself. So I want to just hear that, oh, we are together, or we are not together.
We are together.
We
are together.
Okay,
We are together.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's just wonderful. Let's just
together.
Wonderful.
We are enjoying the class.
Okay, so let's take it a step. Okay, thank you very much. Let's just take it a step further. Now, yeah,
Together.
wonderful, wonderful. So let's take it a step further.
That's a good.
Now, so performance review and evaluation within also your performance management or performance management system ensure that you actually have a formalized and an efficient performance review and evaluation? When I mean performance review, is the process of ensuring that you can check the progress of the employee. You can check to say, Mr. A was at point A in January, is at point B in February. It's a process that ensures that you identify the strengths and the weakness of the employee, and you are able to help them with how they can actually become better. It's a process that focuses on ensuring that you show the employees the facts. You are supposed to do X. You have done X minus 2. How do you think you can do better to achieve X? So it is not a place where you just come and tell them nice words like, I like you, you are wonderful, you are beautiful, you are handsome. That one is a discussion. So a performance review and evaluation must focus on where the strengths and weaknesses are, the opportunities they can leverage on, the threats around the work that they are doing, how they can get better, developmental things that they would have to do. That is what performance reviews and evaluation is about. So within an effective performance review, employees are responsible for ensuring that they agree their objectives with their line manager. Employees are responsible for formulating lead activities. So don't do micromanagement. Micromanagement is when you go to your manager every time, Oga, what should I do? You were not paid to be asking what should you do. You are paid to be able to say, this is what I think we should do. So employees are responsible for formulating lead activities required to meet their objectives. So like, I know the question that someone asked before about micromanagement. Micromanagement will be when an employee goes every time, Oga, what should I do? That your guy should ask you again, employee, what do you think you should do? Because coaching is not about telling them what to do. Coaching is about helping them to discover and leverage on the strengths that they have. So you must allow them to plan the lead activities. Just guide them as a line manager. Number 3, as an employee, you must also schedule regular sessions with your line manager to review. And you must seek feedback to ensure you achieve what you are expected to achieve. Line manager, in effective performance review and evaluation, your responsibility is communicate consistently your organization's mission, values, expectations, the way they should work, the objective of the organization. Communicate it whenever you are having that chat, that check-in. Let them know at every point in time what the company stands for. Communicate and help them with what their objectives are supposed to be. You must put it in their face at every point in time. 2, clearly define their work objectives for them, as in clearly show it to them. Remember, you are not the one defining it for them. It's the employees themselves that define it in compliance with what the company requires. So also, just be showing them that your work expectation is 1, 2, 3. 10 billion is what you are supposed to bring in. Now, however, as you now tell them that 10 billion is what they are supposed to bring in, you now begin to help them. How you begin to coach them developmentally. What do you think you will need to do? I'm of the opinion you might need to actually go for a training. What kind of training do you think will help you to become better? Now, that is the work of the line manager. So you must keep employees informed about their progress. You must also suggest to them at points in time corrective actions that they might need to take. But before you suggest to them, let them bring it out from within them. Ask them open-ended questions like, how do you think you can do it? How better can you achieve it? When do you think you can achieve it? Would you want to go online and give them open-ended questions that will help them to actually open up their minds effectively? Now, you see, when it has to do with performance reviews, there could be many errors in our performance reviews. One of the errors around that is this, what they call recency effect. You see, recency effect is all about, in many companies where they do only every 6-month feedback appraisal or per year, recency is that, oh, somebody did something in January, February, March, April, May, you have forgotten everything. It's the one that you remember they did in December that you now use to do their feedback. For example, he didn't do a good work in January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Then he now started doing a good work in November and December. Remember, if all of these things have not been documented anywhere, when you want to do the person's feedback, it is the one he did in December you will remember. And that is actually a performance evaluation error. Because the period that you are evaluating is 1 year. Why consider only December? So the performance of the person though needs to be developmental, but you also need to consider what? The whole period of the review. So in a situation when managers are not doing continuous performance management or continuous feedback, what you discover is that you would have forgotten. The one you will remember is the one they did last week. Number two, error that we also find in performance evaluation is what they call the halo-ons effect. The halo-ons effect is about where an employee is very good at some particular things, but is not good at some particular things. So what the line manager will just do is to rate them on whether the good things they are doing or the bad things they are not doing. So for example, if the good things they are doing are more than the bad ones that they cannot, the ones that they are doing bad, you just, oh, maybe you did that one well now, so because of that I give you 100%. The halo-on effect is about you just check one aspect and you make a generalized opinion based on just one aspect, whether the good aspect or the bad aspect. Why? Because there's no continuous feedback mechanism. If there was a continuous feedback mechanism like an HRIS application that can actually help you to document the coaching sessions, the feedback like a diary, so that effectively I can see that, oh, there's something you didn't do well yesterday, oh, and because our feedback, our performance management mechanism is developmental. At every point in time when we meet, we are looking at where we stopped yesterday and what you should do today to become a better person tomorrow. Halo effect or halo-ons effect could also be a major error in performance management. Another one is bias, favoritism. Bias is a major issue where, because I like you, I will not tell you the truth. Because I like you, I will give you a good score. The sincere truth is that as a line manager, if you do that, you're actually killing the company for the person. And the sincere truth is that the person will move on. You might have affected the company that should have actually become bigger because of a bias. So managers sometimes allow favoritism, bias. It came from my village. Like there was a particular request on one of the HRIS application we deploy. One of our clients was of the opinion that, you know what, in our recruitment management system, that whenever somebody applies as an applicant, that one of the pop-ups that they see, that they want to be seen the state of origin. And the sincere truth is that the thought is that if you see the state of origin and you know it's from your village, then you will say, oh, this person, I will consider him better because he came from my village. Favoritism. Another major error that we find in a performance evaluation system is inaccurate information and preparation from the manager's perspective and also from the employee's perspective. Managers must be prepared. And that is why I would always suggest an efficient HRIS application. Why? Because sometimes managers forget. But if it were that your performance management system uses continuous feedback, where at every point in time you can see what the person is supposed to improve on based on the coaching session you did yesterday. You can see and you can document and see a progression. At every point in time, you would have studied that before having a review session with your employee or with your direct report. So at every point in time, managers must be prepared before they have a coaching session with their direct reports, because many are not. They have nothing to offer to the employees when they come. When the employees come, they tell them their problems and they say, oh, it is well, have fun. You have not helped them in any way. As line managers, you need to actually have the right tools, the right experience to help your direct reports to overcome their weaknesses and challenges. Another issue that we also see in a performance evaluation rating system is uneven assessment standard. You use some standard for white expatriates, then use another standard for Black locals. Now, the sincere truth is this: if they are doing the same work and you use two different approaches, you will discover that some will be working more and probably earning less, and some will be working less and earning more. So uneven assessment standard might also cause a problem around that. Another one is lack of management support. Lack of management support. Probably management does not allow you to actually even, at every point in time, you must be doing something, or they don't support with the right technology to drive what you would have to do, because technology is the key one in performance management. The world has gone far. It is not that the paper-based one is not good. Don't get me wrong. It's the fact that there is no way. It is only when you pick up the paper that you will remember. But if it were that there's a mechanism for us to have a meeting online, document the meeting in the performance management system, where at every point in time, when we go back, we will see what was said yesterday. We will see what should be done. We will see whether it has been done. Then it is more progressive rather than counter-progressive. Now, these are some of the issues that we find in many evaluation systems in Nigeria. And I think it's something that you probably actually want to look at. Now, that is the performance evaluation. And also remember, a key thing I need to say, in performance evaluation, if you have done a performance evaluation and you discover that the person has not performed well, you discover that the person is performing below expectation, then we now come to what we call performance improvement plan. Performance improvement plan is for low performers. It is like giving them probation. So when you are saying, oh, you have not performed well, and you want to put that staff back on probation, you would initiate what they call a performance improvement plan. So remember, a performance improvement plan is for employees that are not performing well. So it is a mechanism to help employees to step up. So you will not do performance improvement plan within the normal performance management for every normal person, every performing person. This particular one is done for as a catch-up. It is like when you do summer class. That is performance improvement plan. So let's talk about performance improvement plan. Number one, performance improvement plan is a tool to give an employee with performance deficiency the opportunity to succeed. I've said it before. So it is a way of addressing the failure of the employee. How do you do and what do you do in a performance improvement plan? Let's first talk about the role of everybody in a performance improvement plan. You will discover that in the normal performance management system, the people that are more responsible are the employee and the line manager. But in the performance improvement plan, employee is also, HR manager is also very important, including the line manager and the employee. But what is the roles? In a performance improvement plan for low-level performers or performance deficient performers, the role of the HR manager is to determine whether a performance improvement plan is required. So it is not the line manager that determines this, it's the HR manager. A line manager could actually give a bad rating for an employee, but it is the HR manager that then goes to everybody's performance, check everybody and see the ones that are deficient. So it is the role of the HR manager to determine the people or the employees that require a performance improvement plan. At the same time, Administration of all performance improvement plan in conjunction with the manager is also the responsibility of the HR manager. However, she's not or is not doing it alone. And they also provide ongoing guidance to the line manager and to the employee on what they should do within a performance improvement plan period. What is the role of the line manager? The role of the line manager is to plan with the HR manager on how to address the deficiencies of the employee. So it works in line with both the line manager, with the employee and the HR manager to ensure that they actually meet it. And the role of the employee is to take responsibility to ensure that they meet those things they should meet and they are able to get back to a performing level so that they will not be doing performance improvement plan again. So there are 5 steps in the performance improvement plan. 5 steps in the performance improvement plan. In the real class, we will talk about this very well in the open class, but I'll try to run this through because of the time. Yeah. The first one is to determine if the performance improvement plan is required. We need to actually determine first, is it required? Second step, develop a draft plan. Third step, review the draft plan. Fourth step, implement the plan. And the 5th step is to monitor the progress. Let me just, in this class, let's talk about just how you determine if there is a need. Now, determining if there's a need is the responsibility of the HR. So how do they determine? The first thing is that they need to determine if there's an actual performance or behavioral issue. And how do they determine that? If you have an efficient HRIS application that does performance management, they can go to the scores, to the feedbacks, to the comments, review them, and are able to say this one is performing below expectation. After doing that, it is also the responsibility of the HR manager to now go to the line manager and say, line manager, this person scored 1. Why? What is he doing wrong? So the HR manager must discuss with the line manager to know whether somebody requires to be put on performance improvement plan. Apart from that, sometimes some line managers don't like some people. The next step will now be that HR manager will now ask the line manager, give me evidence. It's possible some of those evidence are already on the performance management system. If it's not there, you as an HR manager ask for evidence. Evidence like, consistently for 10 months, the person has not met his objective. Evidence. Then when you have asked for evidence, determine if the line manager has done enough. So in your discussion with the line manager, you begin to ask the line manager, okay, so what have we done with this? What did you do in month 1 when the person did not meet objective? What did you do in month 2? What did you do in month 3? So all of these are meant to be developmental. Number 2, after determining or after comparing or checking if there's an actual performance deficiency or behavioral deficiency, next thing is now to determine if the manager is even committed to helping the employee. The sincere truth is that you cannot do a performance improvement plan for somebody that the line manager is not ready to help. So you do a performance improvement plan for an employee and the line manager does not want the employee to be in his department. That employee will fail. So you must determine if the line manager is even ready or committed to helping the employee succeed. Or he or she wants to just terminate the employee. Now, once I asked one of my colleagues, one of my colleagues in the office, and the person, there was somebody that wasn't performing appropriately, and the line manager was of the opinion that, you know what, this person, the contract needs to be terminated. And my question to the person was, isn't there something we can do better? All I was trying to determine is that, as the line manager, don't you think you want to be committed to helping the person? But you see, the line manager just went straight to the point. You know what? I'm not committed to doing anything to get this person better. If the line manager is not committed to getting the person better, there is no need for a performance improvement plan. No need at all. So you need to determine that as an HR manager. After you have determined that, you also need to check whether it is likely that the issue can be fixed within a formal improvement plan. No, there are some issues that cannot be fixed. For example, the person has a bad attitude. The person is always fighting. The sincere truth is that that kind of thing is possible. A performance improvement plan will not solve it. If, for example, whenever there's a problem, it will remove bottle, break bottle for everybody. I beg. Performance improvement plan might not work. It's psychological profiling that will work. Psychological hospital. So to an extent, some of those things, they might need to go for counseling with a psychiatrist. That is outside a normal performance improvement plan. So you must determine as the HR manager, will a performance improvement plan even work at all? So these are some of those things that you will do in step one. Don't worry, when we actually hold the real class, we will be able to actually look at this. Now, I would like to actually also just bring this to the fore. Samuel, are you there, please? Okay, please, any questions? Samuel, are you there? Any questions for me at this point? Any questions for me at this point? Any question for me at this point, please?
Hello.
Go ahead, please. You can ask your question, please.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. I'm still following up on the PIP.
Okay.
When you do a PIP. Now, normally, I know there's a review process and a review time frame, which you're supposed to discuss it. Normally, it ranges from organization to organization.
Yes.
Some you have a performance planning meeting, a performance improvement planning meeting with the staff at least once a month to review his performance over a 90-day period.
Yes. You're very correct. So, like I said, this is actually the abridged version, and I'm trying to just justify it.
When the staff is put on PIP, is for 3 months straight, and at the end of 3 months, they look at all of the activities that were discussed, whether he has improved on them.
Yes.
But what I'm saying that after the 90-day period, if the staff has not improved, do we start the whole circle again, or what do we do?
Okay. So the second step in your performance improvement plan is what they call developing a draft plan. Now you will remember that I didn't talk about the 5. I just stopped on step 1. But step 2 is where you now begin to set the SMART objective and determine what period will it last for. Some will last 30 days. Some will last 60 days. Some will last 90 days. It's a function of the particular things that you intend to solve, the magnitude of the deficiencies that you intend to solve. Now, to answer your question, when after the 90 days, the expectation is that the consequence should be either a demotion, a transfer, a termination, or giving the person a new position. Now, sometimes it might not be that you will terminate, but it could, after the PIP, you will discover some things like, oh, probably the person cannot do the role at all. For example, you gave the role of a carpenter to a plumber. The carpenter now cannot do the work of the plumber very well. After the 30 to 90 days PIP period, you would have been able to come up to that conclusion to say, should we terminate this guy finally? Or can we move this person to another department? Or can we demote this person? Whether he doesn't know enough, he needs to go and learn more. So there might be, so it could be a termination, it could be a demotion, it could be a transfer, it could be a new job role that you want to give the person. And like I said, it could be a termination. Have I answered your question, sir?
Somewhat, but not fully, because, at the end of in trying to do an objective PIP, yes, we also have to look at not only the person's performance, but other activities or conditions that might be affecting performance. Take, yes, for example, when you are supervising people that you are supervising remote staff that work with you remotely. You are in Lagos, you have remote staff in Maiduguri, you have another one in Port Harcourt, you have another one in Ekiti, you have them there, and they are having problems with performance, and the nature of your job, the nature of your work schedule is quite busy. So sometimes meeting with them once a week to follow up on what the line manager has done with them is actually very difficult. I don't personally think that at the end of the PIP, you should resort to either termination, or is like you said, you raised a valid point. You said that it might be that that person is not good for that job role. So there might be other job roles in the organization where if you can rotate that person to, it might become a star performer. It's just for us to look at, how can we assist this person, because everybody has issues that's affecting their work life. And sometimes it might be even personal issues that are causing this non-performance or lag in performance, not really that you don't want to do it. So I think we should look at everything holistically, so that at the end of the 3 months or 60 days or 90 days, as said, we should be able to look at it and say, okay, fine, this guy, apart from this job role, is there any way he can function that we can see? Let it not be as if it's just this based on this job role, that because there are sometimes that people experience burnout on a job role, or when you put them in a job role, they don't like the job role, even though they apply for it. But when they begin to work there, they don't really like it. They begin to, have you never seen people that work in a unit and they are more interested in what's going on in other units where they would like to work? So they do not really look at where they are working. And that's my own contribution.
Wonderful contribution. Like I said, really, when you are doing a PIP, it is not termination that it will lead to all the time. It could just be change the role of the person, give the person a demotion. It could even be that you might act within, when you are doing the PIP, probably after the first week, the second week, the third week, you discover that the problem of this person is that he has emotional intelligence issue. It could just be that it is a training that the person needs on emotional intelligence, and the person will become a star performer. So at every point in time, it's not always termination. No. So let's not always look at it that it could just be within the period that, it is a training that you need to send the person for. It could be that, it is that we transfer the person to another job role. It could be that, you should actually give the person a lower role, and the person will be able to perform better. So somebody is raising up his hand. You can go ahead, please. Olarewaju Sami. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'm not of, can you hear me, please?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, actually, I'm not of the opinion of, I don't really support demotion. So once the PIP basically is to see if there are gaps in performance. And once we find out that there is this gap, it is the duty of the line manager and the HR to look for possible trainings that can help this person perform well in his or her job role. So most times I am more of the developmental human resource person who feels that yes, there's always room for improvement. No one knows it all. So demotion would definitely affect the psychic of the employee. Then at that point, you will not get the full value. You not get how do I put it now? You not get the employee will not work optimally. There will be a psychic effect on that employee, on that staff. So I think we should be looking at how do we can move that person from this role to maybe another unit, or maybe look for something that corresponds or that is related to what he's doing and which this person can function better. But demotion and sacking or asking the person to termination, it's for me, it's really not the way to go.
Now, I
This is my own point.
Wonderful. I think I need to actually say this again. Now, like I said some minutes ago, that when you are actually doing a PIP, you don't even wait for the 30 days. As you begin to do the PIP, probably we actually meet every week or every 2 weeks. At each of those meetings, we are able to know what we need to do to make the person to jump over the deficiency. So at that point in time, like the example I painted of somebody that has an emotional intelligence, it could just be simple training. We don't need to wait till the 30 days or the 60 days or the 90 days. During that period, you will be able to identify what developmental training or training that will help the person to be better, give the person. During that period, it's even possible that you will discover that the person is not built for that kind of job role. You don't even need to wait till the end. Discuss with the person. So the whole idea around performance improvement plan is to work on the deficiency of the employee, is not to sack the employee. However, in some cases as the last resort. If the person, those things cannot be solved within a PIP. Now, remember what I said. If they cannot be solved within a PIP, termination is also an option. However, termination is not the reason for a PIP. A PIP is to make the person better. So you must look for whether it's a transfer, giving him a new job role, sending him for trainings. Those are the major things we should focus on. Okay. Okay, Ofab, you raise up your hand so you can talk. Oh, sorry, Ofogab. It's not Ofab. Ofogab, you raised up your hand so you can ask your contribution, please. Ofogab. Were you the one that spoke just now? Okay. So I can actually continue, really. Samuel. Yeah. Okay, so I can actually stop sharing. Okay, so my colleague just asked something to say in. Okay, I can see some people raising up their hand, but my colleague asked something to say in a minute, and in a minute, then I'll just continue. I'll continue now. I'm just going to stop sharing. My colleague is just somewhere you can actually share it.
Hello, Samuel. Hello, Samuel.
Yeah, hello. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, can you just send us this brochure with the amounts for these trainings so we can know what to do with them? You can send it to everybody.
We will do that. We will do that. So I just wanted us to see this particular slide, and afterwards we are going to send a follow-up mail with the related training pertaining to employee performance, how to improve employee performance, all the necessary skills.
Please include the cost in your what you're sending.
Yes,
please.
of course. We are going to add
Thank
the costing as well. We will add the costing for each of these classes. We will, but we just wanted to do this first of all. Then after that, we are going to send the follow-up mail, including the costing as well, and the dates, as you can see, for all these trainings. So these are trainings relating to employee performance and how to improve employee performance, really. These are the ones that we have coming up. So we'll just give like 2 minutes, less than a minute really, for you to just scan through the screen. And if you are interested in anyone, you can just signify in the chat box to say you're interested in a particular one. Drop your email and we'll reach out to you with the details of that particular training. Thank you very much. We just give like 30 seconds, just scan through before my colleague Sean will continue with the class. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, I think I can continue now. Okay. Okay, so I think Samuel is going to, let me share my screen back. Samuel is going to is going to just send those to us, really. Like I said, I just need to wrap up now. I think I'm past the time, really. I should wrap up. So all of these other ones, we'll do it at the full class. And I can actually, because I actually do this for a couple of clients. I do this for a lot of clients, really. We actually implement an application called HRIS that we know it brings in all the continuous feedback, continuous what do you call it? Continuous check-ins. So you don't need to do those check-in by coming to the office. You can just use an application. I can be in Kaduna and we are here in Lagos and we are doing a feedback discussion and it's just a chat. And on the same application, we are documenting what is expected within the coaching. The coaching is tied to the performance management. The performance management at the same time has its own performance feedback. And I know that the application will actually help you. The HRIS is actually an application that actually helps. It actually has about 21 sub-modules. Performance management is one of them, and it is very, very robust. It does succession planning, it does recruitment and onboarding, learning and development, employee asset management, staff loan management, payroll, exit management, gratuity management, kudos, shift management, leave, what do you call it? Time and attendance, employee information, employee self-service, HR analytics, workforce planning and budgeting, promotion, and on, really. It has about 21 sub-modules, and I think I'll be happy to just we'll be happy to show you the application. It's actually a very robust application that I think we were actually at the CIPM conference last 2 years. I think we're the only ones that actually presented last 2 years online, really, and it's a very robust application that solves many of the performance management problems of companies, really. It's actually very mobile friendly. It's multi-company, so you can use it for as many companies as possible. It can be used for as many as 15,000 employees if you actually want. It's very flexible. It's scalable, so you can actually create your frameworks inside it, inside the application. We'll be able to show you if you would like us to show you. So if you want us to show you the application, it's free. Showing you the application is free, and we can set up one for you online that you can use for a period for free, and you can test it for free. So if you actually want that, you can just drop a comment in the chat, so that basically we can just set up a demo and a free trial for you. Yeah. Please, can you hear me? I just want to be sure that I'm not rapping. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You're not rapping. You're only talking.
I'm sorry. No, sometimes when you do this online. So yesterday we actually had a session for like 500 people. And now when you're talking to a lot of people, at the same time, you do not know whether, online training, you don't know whether you're talking to your system or you're talking to human being. So sometimes I prefer to ask, can you hear me? I am rapping. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, I know I didn't finish this session. We actually have a full class for this session, really, and I would like you to actually join those full classes. At this point, I would like to actually just say, any questions, and I want to just hear your view. We actually have this every 2 months. We take each areas, and we actually just try to have a free class around them, and we also have paid full classes that I want to believe will benefit the company. Any questions, any views? As I say, thank you. I would like to hear from you. Did you enjoy yourself, or it was a waste of time?
Hello.
Okay, Mr. Anthony.
Yeah, it was a nice presentation. I really enjoyed myself, even though I came in late. Because I was in another meeting, but the short time I was here was great. But I would like to know about the GOS HRM.
Yes.
If you could maybe email us.
Yes, we'll email.
A demo.
Yeah.
A demo.
Yes, we will.
A demo that's like 2 minutes demo or a minute demo that runs through how it works.
So we will email you the teaser document. It has a teaser document. Then we will email you links to those demos online. They are on YouTube. They are on whatever. So we don't need to send you a big file. That makes sense. So we'll email you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So we'll just email you that. Yeah, you are raising up your hand. Please.
Samuel, please send us the other ones. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Somebody, you are trying to say something. You are raising up your hand. Please, you can talk. The floor is open. Emmanuel, Doreen, Olarewaju, Ofo.
Okay, my name is Doreen.
Oh,
Can you hear
sorry.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you, please.
I'm joining in.
I didn't get that. Can you say that again? I know you're talking, but we can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You can go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You can go ahead, please. Yeah, we can hear you. You can go ahead. Oh, okay, Doreen, you can try again afterwards. Okay, Doreen, you can try again afterwards. I'm listening. Emmanuel, you can go on, please. Emmanuel, you can go on, please. Okay. Any comments, any other comments, please, you can talk to people raising their hands. Any comments, any other comments, please, you can talk to people raising their hands.
Hello, for the GOS HRM. That's the HRS. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
The network is so bad. Okay, I'm very much interested because I can see the models and it's quite comprehensive. And if you can send us a a model like how do I put it now? What, just like a sample, so
We'll send you a
view
teaser
with my
document.
manager.
It has all the information
Yes,
and a link online. We'll send you that.
yes. So,
do you have
like
your email
for the self-service?
I'm sorry, please. The email that you actually registered with, is it your correct email, or do you want to drop your email again in the chat? The email, they will send it to
yes,
the
it's my
email you
email.
have. Okay, so they will send it to that one.
Yeah, okay. For this self-service, that for all the employees, you said it takes like, how many employees do you say it's recover? 1,005. I just want to get the
actually
number.
have as much as 15,000 employees. So effectively, it has been deployed for
okay, 15,000.
A group of companies that has about 30 some, no, I think about 50 something 30 something companies in one group, and all of them were using the same. So to an extent, really, it will take as much as 15 and even more, really. So
can I get a reference? Like if I want my organization to list?
You will get many even inside your teaser document. You will get many. So we'll just give you and you can. And okay, there are even referral videos online. There are referral videos online, really. So you can, they're on YouTube. So videos of companies and what they said as in video.
When you say user-friendly, can let me say the driver of my workplace log into his ESS and do everything
let
he
me
needs
tell
to
you,
do.
in one of the companies that it was deployed for is a manufacturing company. You know, some of them is a manufacturing company where some of the workers are actually at the factory, and they are the ones that will request for their leave from the application. So I think I've answered your question. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, please, any question, vote of thanks, anything you want to say before we go. Okay, if nobody is talking, thank you very much. We appreciate you for joining this session, and would like to see you at the next session, and also at the full master classes. We'd like to see you. Thank you very much from my side, and I want to believe you had fun.
You're welcome. Thank you. As well. And God bless you.
Amen. And you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the training and thanks for your time.
Thank you. We had fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
I put your face.